Well, hi there, everyone, and welcome to the NFL algorithm preseason week 2. I always end up doing super long videos, really technical videos about Microsoft Excel and programming and coding and different models of information, and they're super boring sometimes. And for this edition, I realized I was going to talk forever about a lot of technical things that I did to the file tonight. I worked on the NFL algorithm for close to 4 to 5 hours tonight, which is an immense amount of time for me to sit and work on something like this. But the reason why I did it, and I'm just going to talk in plain English and generalizations to get through this video and make it as short as possible. I went and grabbed all the players from last year. And what I did was I checked to see if they were on an old team last year and whether or not that team changed this year. So right over here basically is we have a new list of players. And this is really helpful. And basically I'll explain why. Like people who changed, like Adam Humphries used to be on Tennessee and now he's on Washington. Okay, that's an example of a change. AJ McCarron used to be on Houston, now he's on Atlanta. Adrian Peterson played for Detroit, now he's currently not signed and is a free agent. Well, after I did all this, I went through 660 players or something like that, 650, something like that. They're mostly offensive players, I believe. After I did that, I went back and I refreshed the projection sheet here because it moved all of the players around from whatever team they had been on last year to the new team this year, even though it's using their stats from last year. And all that does was if you look at, even though we're looking at today Thursday night's game, which I'll get to in a second, apparently it likes the Patriots. Let me talk about preseason week 1 first. It wasn't that great when we had the old numbers in here. But it actually is really good when we use the new numbers, which were projections based on all the trades and all the offseason moves that have the players on their current teams. On the spread, you end up going 10-5 on the spread. This is not backfill, meaning this is how it would have predicted the games if I had just updated all the players to their correct teams by doing what I did. Amazing. So that's fascinating. So what does that mean? It means you get a freaking awesome preview at week 2. Here's the whole thing. Let's talk about week 2 and make this, like I said, a video that's as short as possible. I'm just really proud of what I did. I spent a lot of time working on this, and it will definitely be better. And I also learned some things going through every single player. I learned about all these different people that moved teams, and it's very interesting to analyze who moved and just big shifts. Anyway, so let's talk about preseason week 2. It doesn't matter, it's preseason, but this is going to be kind of helpful, so let's pay attention. Washington likes them over Cincinnati because Cincinnati's a really bad team, but this is preseason, and it's tough in preseason to score a lot of points, so this is a tough game to bet, in my opinion, even though it likes Washington a lot. Pittsburgh, I think, beats Detroit. I think they will, but the line's not good, and it's also tough to win by a lot of points in the preseason when preseason doesn't matter. Tampa Bay lost the game to Cincinnati, I think, in the preseason last week. You know they're not going to play Super Bowl champions. They don't need to play. They got their roster pretty much finalized. So I think this is also a tough game for the preseason. Then we start to get to some interesting games that I actually do like. So here, Green Bay looks like they'd be so much better than the Jets, right? The Jets were one of the worst teams in the league last year. But Green Bay's, their roster's having some weird issues. Something ain't right there all the way up in cheese country. And never listen to me, always listen to the algorithm. Algorithm says they win by a touchdown and that the line's pretty good for that. But it's preseason. So, I don't know. It's a tough one, but the line is really good for Green Bay. I have to say that. Indianapolis, this one I do think is a good play. Indianapolis at plus 140. Minnesota looked awful in their preseason game at home in week 1. Here, the point projections with all the moves, like there are people that moved, like, do you know who's quarterbacking Indianapolis now? Crazy stuff is going on. Let's take a look at the projections real quick. You can do it this way. You can say, where are all the QBs? you could look at positions of just quarterbacks, for example, and open up and see who everyone's quarterback is now. And so Indianapolis, for example, and by the way, whether or not they have an injury, because I have an updated injury report, they got Carson Wentz now. They got Carson Wentz on Indianapolis. What? I mean, stuff's happened. A lot of interesting stuff has happened. So looking at what's comprising these point projections, I like this. I said the L word. Whenever I say the L word, that's bad. Don't say like. But this is the game I think is the best paying game at the right spot on this list for Indianapolis. But it's preseason, so you got to remember, don't expect much because it's preseason. These teams don't have to play hard. They may not be playing everybody. Patriots against the Eagles thinks they won a 17-12 game. I got this magnifier around 2.5 right now, which is kind of like that's the range of how much it makes these scores. Like if we up this thing to 4, all the scores would go up kind of in tandem to be a higher scoring game. But preseason seems to be something around here. So we're going to leave it there. Is there anything else of interest as we're looking at this list? Because basically, if you want to filter this thing appropriately by who it thinks is going to win by the most number of points based on the players playing and injuries and everything, then you want to say that the projected margin of victory is greater than 0. And these are the games it likes. Now, there's also a spread involved. So does the team we think over here cover the spread according to our point projections? That's what you click yes here, yes or no. You know, we think these teams don't cover the spread. We don't think Miami beats Atlanta by 5. We think they win 14-11, you know, as opposed to these games where we think these teams cover the spread. So there's a lot of different ways to look at the file and to look at things in order. Somebody asked me about the win score percentage, the difference between the win score percentage and, you know, what does it mean really? It's related to team stats, so it's outdated at a time like this in the preseason. It doesn't really, you want to be caring more about the projected margin of victory and the projected scores, because those things take into account current players and rosters, whereas this is more of a frozen in time look at the season as a whole, and the season hasn't even happened yet because this is preseason. So this is looking at last season's rating, so it's really, really not important. Should be looking at the other. I almost want to hide it because it's not really relevant actually. So I might start doing that, but it does come into play later in the season, and that's why I want to leave it as that's what this whole thing is all about. Is we work on this throughout the year as the stats come in, and we add to them, so that we can adjust this throughout the season, but it just doesn't have much of a play right now. So, anything else? So looking at this list, like a lot of underdogs on here. Rams as underdogs against the Raiders, 15-14. How about that? How bad is the win score percentage though, right? Like win score percentage wise, it does still think the Rams beat the Raiders. How about this? Look at that. Big dogs. Anyway, should be fun. Don't expect a ton of things from this in the preseason. However, do expect what? Expect that, I mean, if it did what it did last week, it's going to do something like this. If we retrofitted, you know, the stats the way I did here, if it does something like this, then expect something like that. So expect a smear of wins up here again potentially. You know, here it was really good in the top 7 or 8, and then had a run of bad teams. But you know, whatever. Anyway, guys, I'm exhausted because I spent too much time on this. But if you do one thing this preseason, it's have fun. It's don't worry about betting because it's only the preseason. So good luck. Oh yeah, if you want to buy this thing, you can follow the link and subscribe and get a copy of this file so it gets updated and not have to wait for my videos. All right, good luck. May all your picks be winning.